concerned about that for them.
Yeah, and this is a Bills team that has struggled against the run going back to last year and the year before that as well. And one thing they talked about all summer was the depth of this D-line. It's going to be tested in week 2. But Justin Fields looked phenomenal as a passer last week. He was highly efficient going downfield. The Bills are also going to be without Teron Johnson today. So that is another huge loss for them. And if you play in fantasy, Justin Fields is in your lineup today, no questions asked.
Yeah, look, we will get more fantasy takes from Michael F. Florio. F stands for Frank, by the way, just in case you're wondering. My middle name
I never
Frank.
knew that.
Oh, yeah. And
Steve Frank.
And Steve Weitch's middle name is Frank. By the way, I know it's an old joke. It's only 1 week old. That joke is going to go the entire season. I am that dude who also listens to the same song over and over again on repeat when I like it. Russell Wilson, I have a feeling I know the artist that's in his ears. His wife would be upset if that wasn't the case. G-Men have some issues, and they're in Big D. Jane Slater's got the latest. Coming up next on Game Day Preview. Welcome back to Game Day Preview. It's presented by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. The green. Here we go. Mac Jones getting the start for the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy banged up. George Kittle also dinged. Will not give it a go today. What we can expect from this matchup. We have some details around that. Our NFL insider Tom Pelissero is with us to give us some more context on some of the injuries that the San Francisco 49ers are dealing with. Tom, it's always good to see you on a Sunday morning. Break this down for me. What's the expectation around this San Francisco offense without two key components?
Well, Kyle Shanahan has been a big Mac Jones fan for a while. They were excited to get him on a 2-year deal in the offseason as Brock Purdy's backup. What they couldn't have envisioned, certainly didn't hope for, was that they'd be seeing Mac playing meaningful snaps in week 2. But that is where we are. Mac Jones making his first 49ers start today against the New Orleans Saints for a 49ers team that really got banged up in week 1. The good news for San Francisco is that Juwan Jennings, who is listed as questionable with a shoulder injury, he is active for this game. So is left tackle Trent Williams, who mostly gets rest during the week anyway, but has been dealing with a knee. He too is listed as questionable. he too is ready to go. For Mac Jones, this is not just an opportunity to reboot his career that has met its fair share of bumps over the past couple years in New England and Jacksonville. He also can start earning himself some extra money. He's got a unique incentive clause in his contract where he makes $100,000 for every win that he gets while playing 25% of the snaps, but only if he wins 4 games. In other words, if he wins 4, gets $400,000. Wins 10, he gets $1 million. Wins 3 games or fewer, Mac Jones gets 0 in terms of that incentive. So a little extra incentive for Mac to start fast today, with Brock Purdy expected to miss anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks. In some other new injury news around the NFL, let's go to Detroit, where a couple of key players for the Lions were listed as questionable. Taylor Decker, their left tackle, as well as safety Kirby Joseph. Both players officially active. They are good to go today against the Bears. As for Jets tight end Mason Taylor, who has emerged as a key piece of that offense, he too was listed as questionable. He too is good to go today in a big matchup against the Bills. 2 other real quick injury notes as well in the Browns-Ravens game. Browns right tackle Jack Conklin inactive. He got poked in the eye last week. The eye's fine, but on Wednesday in practice, he injured his elbow. Not able to go today, so some additional challenges. They try to keep that Ravens defense from affecting Joe Flacco. And on the other side of this, the former Pro Bowl cornerback Jair Alexander, who we know, Mike, has been dealing with a knee over the past couple of years. He's gotten it drained this fall. He did not have an injury designation, but he is inactive today, which effectively means Jair Alexander, a healthy scratch, which certainly raises some questions about where things go from here for him in Baltimore.
Yeah, Tom, great intel, especially on that Mac Jones contract incentive as well. I know you got more details for us a little bit later here on Game Day Preview. If there is any news that breaks, I know Tom will be all over it. There's a look at Russell Wilson getting ready for a divisional matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. You don't think this game is meaningful? Think again. Teams that start 0-2 have made the playoffs just 12% of the time since 1990. Both the Giants and the Cowboys sitting at 0-1 this season. For more on this matchup, Jane Slater is at AT&T Stadium and has more for us. Jane, welcome to the show. You know, last week you came on with us and you told us about Andrew Thomas. We were kind of going back and forth because I know you were around this Giants team against the Redskins. That was not pretty offensively from what we saw from the G-men. What can I expect from the Giants left tackle today?
Well, the left tackle is out again, and this is a little frustrating. Talking to some of my Giant sources, this is a foot injury that goes back to week 6 against Cincy last season. So to not have him available today is concerning. They'll have James Hudson III starting there again, but I went back and looked at some of the stats. Russell Wilson was getting the ball out quick, but he was under duress, I think 4th most in the league. And so he's going to have to continue to be agile and mobile at that position. I think it also explains maybe why they don't want to put Jackson Dart back there right now. This is a guy that can stretch the field, and I anticipate we only saw him on 8 plays. Cam Scatterbo, his rookie running back, I would imagine they're going to try and use him a little bit more, and then we saw some of the frustration from Malik Neighbors. He did explain he's got no problems with Brian Daboll or Russell Wilson. He just felt like the energy last week on the sidelines wasn't great. Obviously, he's wide receiver 1. He wants to see the ball more. Just a little hard when you consider some of the pass rush we saw from the Washington Commanders, and I anticipate a similar pass rush today from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, on the flip side, from a Dallas perspective, Jane, I know we have fun with CeeDee Lamb. We watch him out on the football field. He's always entertaining. We got a little extra sizzle today from him?
I forgot about this. I mean, so much happened last season. There were so many season-ending injuries, Mike Yam. And every week when I'm prepping for a game, I simply ask the receivers what it's like to go up against certain quarterbacks on the other side of the field. CeeDee Lamb, before I can even finish the question about Giants corner Drew Phillips, who was in his rookie season last year, he said, he hurt me, he tackled me, and I've got something for him. Knowing how those words can kind of get twisted, I walked into the locker room with him and I said, explain that to me. What happened there? He reminded me that, you know, he hurt his shoulder in week 9 against the Falcons. And then in week 13, playing against the Giants, Andrew Phillips came across on a route, tackled him and hit him in a way that he thinks he shouldn't have. And he says, as a result, he's got a little extra something here today. He's also got a little extra something because of those costly drops in that game against the Eagles. We saw him on the jugs up there at the Star in Frisco about 7 hours after he landed. He said he didn't want it caught on tape. It wasn't for us to put out there on socials, but it did. He said all it was about was he couldn't get any sleep. He said he trains to be there in moments like that, and it can't happen again. So I would anticipate his bounce back today for fantasy owners. One to watch.
Yeah, Michael Florio, we will get his take on that coming up a little bit later on the show. 4 drops for CeeDee Lamb last week. That was not exactly what fantasy owners or Dallas Cowboy fans were hoping for. Jane, always appreciate the intel. Enjoy the matchup today. It's great to have you on the show with us. And let's take a closer look at this quarterback matchup, and more specifically from a Dak Prescott perspective. Most quarterback wins against a single opponent. I didn't need to see this graphic to know that was the case, those 13 wins against the Giants. And maybe we're talking about a 14th win here because, Jordan, you and I were talking earlier this week just about Andrew Thomas. Jane gave us the news, probably not going to be out there today. I don't even know what to make of this Giants offense. Oh, by the way, Cynthia Freeland, I'm so used to seeing you all over. Welcome to the show. I should say hi to you as well. We'll get your analysis. No.
Just like pop
we're all friends, and we're always hanging out here. But like, I don't even know how to assess what I saw from the Giants offense with an offensive line that was so banged up.
Well, in 20 inactive games for Andrew Thomas since 2022 when Brian Dable took over, the Giants are 3-17, 15-16 and 1 in all other games that Andrew Thomas has played since that time. And to really illustrate this, in order to settle Russell Wilson down, you need to run the ball. They could not run or pass last week, but you definitely need to run the ball to settle Russell Wilson down. When Andrew Thomas is on the field, the Giants have averaged 105.8 rush yards per game, 1.7 rush yards before contact, so the blocking is there. When he's off the field, just 88 yards per game, 1.2 yards before contact, so the blocking is, I would say, less there.
Yeah. Cynthia, what are you tracking here?
Well, I actually just need to issue an apology to Javonte Williams because I made a very, very strong point on this very show where I said, how are they going to run? Who are they going to run? Well, the answer is actually Pookie. That's his nickname from college. You can call him that when you see him next time. But ultimately, I'm glad to see what the Giants are going to bring up front to help out Dak Prescott, but in the run game too. Like, this is going to be a challenging game from a pass rushing perspective. That's where the Giants are best. But if you run right at him, we saw it last week, and that's really the recipe for success.
Yeah, and I think Dak is going to have a huge game as we see there. I think CD is going to go off. I want to see George Pickens get more involved. He only had 4 targets in week 1. We know you got to feed him the ball to keep him happy. I'm hoping Pickens has a big bounce back day today.
No, not for nothing. I think there was like such a negative vibe around this Cowboys team heading into the season. I know they did not score a win in week number 1. I actually thought they looked better. And if we're not talking about some of these CeeDee Lamb drops, maybe it's a different result in the opener. Just something to percolate. Not that I want to feed that narrative with being a Giants fan myself. TJ Watt, an absolute machine. There's some issues with the Steelers defense against the Jets in week number 1. How do they hold up against Sam Darnold and company? We'll discuss that coming up next on Game Day Preview. Like, do you get confused if you're DK Metcalf? Like, which locker room am I heading to? You see some of your old teammates. Apparently, it's just some high hellos before the game. I don't want to say revenge game because he was traded, although there's, once again, familiar faces for DK Metcalf as they match up against the Seattle Seahawks. For more on this game, it's our guy Cam Wolf who is standing by. All right, Cam, I saw Aaron Rodgers handle business in and I'll use the air quotes like revenge game against the Jets. Now it's DK's turn here. Take me through the conversations, the relationship here between quarterback and wide receiver and as it pertains to this game.
Yeah, DK Metcalf has downplayed this reunion revenge game. He said he's going to have no extra juice. But I talked to Seattle Tech coach Mike McDonald about 30 minutes ago. He said, look, we had a lot of battles in practice, a lot of emotions. It's just going to be fun today. He said it with a smile. And look, Aaron Rodgers, you mentioned it, loves DK. He talked about how much he cares, how well he preps. And that rhythm they've had so far has been a huge part of their success early. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith has a huge plan for them to hit the middle of the field, to use play action. So watch that deep fade route that Aaron Rodgers loves to throw off play action. They think they can take advantage of a Seahawks secondary that is down Devin Witherspoon and another safety as starter as well.
Cam, it's a story that we will be tracking throughout the course of this game. I know you will absolutely enjoy it. It is always good having you with us here on Game Day Preview. I think one of those fascinating storylines, though, when I think back, Cynthia, to what you had talked about last week with regard to Pittsburgh's offense, play action. How does Arthur Smith want to utilize Aaron Rodgers? Whatever he was doing, it was working.
Yeah, I mean, it worked to the tune of 3 of his 4 touchdowns were off play action passes. Pretty good number. I mean, throwing 4 touchdowns is always good, 3 of them on play action. But ultimately, the use of tight ends is what this whole offense is going to function behind. So as much as we like to talk about this being a DK revenge game and whatever, all of that stuff, that's fun vibes-wise, but the smarter sort of bet on this is when they don't blitz, which they don't do very often. The Seahawks only blitzed 16% of the time last week, so they're not a big blitzing team. That's what Aaron Rodgers will attack. So in this game, it'll be non-blitzed downs. Look for him to just be like, where was Devin Witherspoon supposed to? Okay, get right there. So perhaps it's to a tight end, but maybe it'll be fun and be DK.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to see the play action expand, right?
Yes.
Like, I would like to see Aaron Rodgers start to throw the ball down the field to a guy who runs, a 4.3 at his size, at tight end size in DK Metcalf. Yes, we talk about the absence of Witherspoon and that potentially leaving the secondary vulnerable. Nick Emenwari, the big safety who might have drawn some of the coverages responsibilities, is also banged up into this week. Aaron Rodgers did not throw the ball 20-plus yards down the field for just the 3rd time in his career last week, despite all that play action. When we see the play action, we see the framework to building an explosive passing game. Now you go take it with DK Metcalf at the lead.
Yeah, we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers really air the ball out for a couple years now, so I want to see if he can get back to that. I also, in the Steelers' run game, I want to see, is Kenneth Gainwell going to be the lead back again? Are we going to get more Warren? Are we going to get Caleb Johnson involved there? And then on the Seahawks side, can someone do something besides JSN for that offense? He was the entire passing attack. And then Cam Wolf, he's ranking everyone, all the players' outfits. I think he needs to start ranking the sideline reporters' outfits, too.
Yeah, no, he's on that short list. There'd be a heck of a competition. We should do that
bring
at the end of the year. You just dress your best. Let's see what we got. We'll throw up NCAA-style brackets, and then we'll do the picks.
Well, then you could game it for, who's facing off against who which week.
What would the model say about this?
Yes. It would be dependent on seating. The seating would really depend.
Cynthia's going to spend some time coding this out.
Yes, way too much time.
All right, this is a game that I think a lot of people are focused in on. Bears and Lions. Stacey Dales has got the latest on this matchup. Coming up next here on Game Day Preview.
play for each other, one job. What you willing to lay on the line? Ask yourself that. We ain't no 3, 1, 2, 3, man.
Looking for the end zone. He's got a man. He's got a touchdown. The king is in.
Sometimes you just got to do it yourself.
The one-hand beauty. Oh, what a grab.
It is a fresh hour of Game Day preview. It is presented by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. Mike Yam, Michael F. Floria, Jordan Rodriguez making her debut. Awesome job so far in the first 30 minutes. And, of course, Cynthia Freeland ready to go. I know you're excited for a huge week number 2. There's some good juice here based off of what we saw last week.
I mean, look, here's the thing. I have to tell you, back in that last block, you said it perfectly. I get so annoyed when people say, in week 2, if you go 0-2, your probability of making the playoffs is 12%. That is not true. You said it perfectly right. It is the history shows that teams have only made it that many times. So goat hosting right there.
The math is math.
A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. And as long as
it drives me
happy,
crazy when
happy.
people say that. It's not future, it's the past. That's what we've seen.
You would think that I set this up this way just to make Cynthia really happy. Not only did I get a statistic right, which I know will bring a smile to her face, but we'll also talk about her team in the Detroit Lions.
Do we have to? Okay.
It's got to be fine.
Against the Chicago Bears. There's some juice in this one.
The Detroit Lions are headed for a long offseason.
I've been moving on.
It is an honor to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Feeling very lost. Forget who we are.
Got in trouble, sacked. They love that man here.
Bears falling behind the chains for a variety of reasons.
Flips it on the hook and ladder, takes it to the house.
How about a little razzle-dazzle in the Lone Star State?
That was a trick play. I think Jared Goff did that on purpose.
Lions are going to face the Bears, and they need to figure some things out.
Let's go!
In my mind, find our first victory of the season.
We just got to play our rules, make sure we get it right.
A lot of juice in this one. This week 1 performance from Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions has the NFL world buzzing. Like, hey, what's going to happen to this team? Everyone's hitting panic. Guys, it's week 1. It's okay. We lost 8 coaches on that coaching staff. Things happen. They will figure it out. And Dan Campbell, we trust. I think Stacey Gales would also agree with that assessment. And she joins us right now from Detroit. Stacey, all right, take me through this, because Ben Johnson makes the return. Week 1 wasn't great for the Lions. Just set the stage on the expectations and the conversations around this game.
Well, Yammer, try asking Ben Johnson or Dan Campbell about their emotions facing each other this week. Ain't going to happen. There are no pleasantries. It's been all football. They both think they're going to come in here and win. They're so competitive equally. And by the way, as the new head coach of the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson, and the play caller that he is, I hope that Jordan is able to add him to the play caller series that she does so well, because he's really special. Now, he's got to get back on track with his group quickly on a short week. They lose Monday Night Football to the Minnesota Vikings and really felt like they should have won that game. They strictly, in terms of finishing that football game, that was the message when I was in the locker room this week. But ultimately, we saw that really impressive first drive against Minnesota, a very scripted drive for the guy that you see right there in Caleb Williams. But after that, inconsistencies came about. Ben Johnson talked about them this week. There were ups and downs. It just wasn't as clean as they would have liked. And certainly the results weren't what they liked. So they've had to go back to the drawing board in terms of communication this week. It just wasn't very good. And keep in mind, they've got a better offensive line, but it's still a new offensive line. And that communication morphs into nonverbals. So the silent count, the silent cadence will be essential today. And that's really hard to do, especially on a short week, but it has been the focus for the Bears. And not to mention the run game. Caleb Williams was their most productive rusher. Despite DeAndre Swift having 17 carries, they've got to find a way to run the ball. As Johnson said, Yammer and company, I've got to call more runs in Detroit.
Well, we will find out if that is going to be the case today, but I do think that there were some flashes from Caleb Williams that we saw on Monday Night Football against the Vikings. Stacey, you are the best. It is always great to get your insight. And by the way, Jordan was paying attention. I saw her taking notes. Expect to get your wish granted.
Add him
in
to the
Athletic
list, Jordan.
Well. Yes, that will happen. Stacey, enjoy the game today as well. All right, take me through this. I'll let you get first bite of the apple here, Jordan. Like, how do we get this thing going from a Chicago perspective?
It sounds simple, run the ball, right? It's so true. And also cut down on the penalties. You know, Stacey, iconic, by the way, mentioned a lot of that reshuffled offensive line, the pre-snap communication. A lot of that drove Ben Johnson absolutely stinking crazy during training camp with all of these penalties and all of these mental miscues up front. And the entire operation has to be functioning, especially non-verbally, especially in that environment, and cutting down on the penalties, getting into a rhythm, settling the quarterback down, because you know that Detroit's going to play a little bit more man, right? And that can mix Caleb Williams up at times. And so you need to get the entire operation fluid and get him settled on time and in rhythm.
Yeah, and the run game will help Caleb as well. He missed a couple of throws that I think he would want back on Monday. But I rewatched the Lions game on Tuesday, and I was petrified for them, right? A ton of quick pressure. Jared Goff moving in the pocket did not look comfortable at all. They couldn't establish the run. Then I watched the Commanders play the Packers on Thursday, and I was like, oh, no, it's not a Lions issue. It's a Packers defense issue. Like, they are just a black hole that I think is going to make a lot of teams look bad when they face off. So I'm curious if the Lions, against a good Bears defense, start to look more like themselves again. But I do think they will, compared to how I felt maybe a few days ago.
Jordan, are you putting Jeff Hafley on your play callers list? Because that defensive coordinator also helps me have Micah. But when I'm looking at the Lions offense, you know, they too have changes in the middle of their offensive line. So when you talk about, Stacey was right, like the communication, the silent call, all those different things. And especially when your quarterback isn't very mobile, that becomes even more exacerbated, even more impressive. You never see Jared Goff throw an interception when targeting that guy right there, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw it last week, right? So ultimately, that communication needs to get better as well. This is not, they lose 8 coaches. We get it. There's also things like the communication in the headset. You forget about that. The timing of when does the headset turn off. These are feels like small details. Maybe you iron them out in the preseason. No. Preseason, you're focused on getting your 53-man roster done. Then you get to focus on some of these details. So as bad as it looked, I still saw Jared Goff complete some downfield passes. Yeah. And no one's more pessimistic than Lions fans. We get it. We we remember the days of celebrating first downs, but ultimately, you got to let it. All right, let's see what they can do, and let's see how they bounce back after this.
Well, Jared Goff's best when he's in rhythm. He's the most confident passer there is when he's in rhythm.
He's accurate.
We've talked so much about the Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson of it all. Let's talk about the Dennis Allen of it all. The Dennisance, as my NFL Daily co-host Greg Rosenthal and I are calling it. He's going to mix his coverages. He's going to bring probably more pressure early than he did against J.J. McCarthy. He called those blitzes at the right time against J.J. McCarthy, but they were rushing with 4 a lot of the game and mixing up man and zone looks behind. And that's what you want to do to try to confuse Jared Goff, to try to get him out of rhythm, out of time. And that's when the Bears might have success.
Only good news for Lions fans is Kyler Gordon's not playing. So, hey, a little better for Lions fans when you don't have one of your best corners play.
The only other thing I would add to this, and I think it's a great point that you bring about Dennis Allen, if Chicago wins in week number 1, I think we're spending way more time talking about that Chicago
that's right.
Defense.
3 quarters. I want to see 4. 3 good quarters.
4 is what you need to do. That obviously is a huge game, Bears and Lions. There's also another one, a Super Bowl rematch.
Heard of it.
This one.
Well, the Eagles have gone to a knee twice. They can do it again and end the game. The Philadelphia Eagles congratulate them as Super Bowl 59 champions. But the Eagles are celebrating, and well, they should. The Philadelphia Eagles getting their 2nd Lombardi trophy in their long history that dates back to the 1930s. Final score, Eagles 40, Chiefs 22.
Feels like so long ago, and it wasn't that long ago. Here are the numbers head-to-head. Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, 2 wins apiece for both of those guys and what they've been able to accomplish. You can see relatively even here. I think Jalen Hurts is like, the only one I care about is the one at the end of the season. Yeah. So we'll see kind of how it plays out. Jordan, when I think about the meat on the bone here, I'm actually a little bit concerned from a Kansas City perspective. I just think this roster for the Eagles is a little bit stronger.
I'm curious about their defense still. There's some moving pieces still, especially, the second cornerback position, a couple of movement around with the safeties and how they want to deploy their outside to in perspective schematically. But yeah, even though this is in Kansas City, Eagles fans, I mean, they left quite the memory at the Super Bowl. I was there, very fortunate to be there. It was the loudest environment on behalf of Eagles fans that I've ever heard. Kansas City Chiefs fans are going to want to show up, show out, try to rattle the unflappable Jalen Hurts. Good luck.
No, always even.
Yeah, Arrowhead's a place where they're going to be very loud.
Yeah.
It just, it's hard to say, and it sounds very stupid, but we talk a lot about Patrick Mahomes not losing 3 in a row ever, and being very good when he's lost 2, when bouncing back after a loss. When you're looking at Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be asked to do a lot because I don't think the run game gets better in this one. Jalen Carter's back. FYI. Maybe they can try to rattle him early and make his immaturity come out. I don't think that's the strategy.
You think he'll play the entire game?
But I think that this is a game where you see, this is where Andy Reid gets into his bag of tricks, and this is where you see, I mean, it's no shade to Nick Sirianni. He's done a great job, but Andy Reid's a Hall of Famer for a reason, and this is why you got 15, and you got Reid, and you got 87 out there. It's just very hard for me to imagine this offense doesn't have a little bit more juice and a little bit more of an ability to come up with things to exploit the youth in the secondary of the Eagles and get past the Jalen Carter of it all.
Yeah. And in the Super Bowl, the play that stands out to me, the game was long over, but Mahomes hit Worthy downfield on like one of the best deep throws you'll ever see. And it was like, let's get that more back in the Chiefs offense. Can they do that today is a big question.
Well, he's banged up. I mean, I don't even know that he plays today, right?
Well, Worthy, no, but we need Mahomes throwing deep. Yeah.
But to who? I would like to see it as well.
Hollywood Brown, come on down.
We'll find out if that's one of Mike's must-starts. Speaking of, look, I mean, we're talking about some of the issues that the Kansas City team had on the defensive side. Justin Herbert also balled out. Mike will take you through the fantasy ramifications of what we saw in Week 1 and how it affects your lineup today. Well, the 2025 NFL season, we are officially underway, and single game tickets on sale right now. Visit NFL.com/tickets to purchase tickets today. Verified tickets are available through the NFL Ticket Network, including Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, and Sports Illustrated tickets. I just get excited that I get to say the word tickets 800 times. 12-second read. Notable injuries. Who's active? Who's inactive right now? San Francisco. I know Tom Pelissero joined us in the last hour. He's got more details coming up in just a bit, but this is good news. Juwan Jennings, there was some concern about that shoulder. He's listed as active. Trent Williams, need to see that dude out on that offensive line without Brock Purdy. We will see him out there. And then, of course, the outs. Xavier Worthy, we just talked about him. Andrew Thomas, that is not a good thing. What does it all mean from a fantasy perspective? It's my guy, Michael Florio, who is with us. Your 5 starts, and I'm not talking about the dude that you drafted in round number 1.
No.
He's locked into this lineup. Give me the 5 starts that are notable players that you might be on the fence about actually playing.
The first player was like a 9th, 10th round pick in fantasy. He was so good that after 1 week, they got rid of his backup. They were like, we don't need you anymore, Tank Bigsby. We have Travis Etienne, and we are in good hands. And if you drafted him in fantasy, so are you. Last week, 156 yards. That was 41% of the Jags scrimmage yards. He played over 60% of the snaps. He had 19 opportunities, which is huge volume. He is an explosive player, and Liam Cohen talks about that. It is a great system for fantasy, and you want opportunity. He is going to be utilized in the passing game if the Jags are trailing. And then give me all the Chargers, right? Like Justin Herbert went out 318 yards and 3 touchdowns. The last time he faced this Raiders defense, he went for 350 and 2. People are worried about Omarion Hampton. He played 80% of the snaps, dominated volume. Keenan and Ladd McConkey are go-to options for him. Even QJ, I think, is in play as a flex, but a little bit more volatile there. I love me some Tyler Warren. I told you to play him last week. I'm not shying away at all. There's only 2 tight ends, in fact, I would rather have over him. It's Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. He led the Colts in targets and catches. He was 2nd in yards. And Michael Pittman Jr. was like, if we wanted to, Tyler Warren could have had 200 yards today. He is that good. First read on 30% of the pass plays. And with the Broncos being so tough on receivers, I expect that to continue. And then number 2, we were talking in the top of the show about the Jets' running attack. That's why you're going to play Breece Hall this week. You watch Derrick Henry just run all over the Bills. And I know some people might be like, yeah, but that's Derrick Henry. Well, Breece Hall has been running all over the Bills pretty much his whole career. He has topped 140 yards in half of his career games against the Bills. Both came at home, by the way, and he's averaged nearly 16 fantasy points per game against them. And running usually means good things for a running back. But in this one, it might mean for a quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. He's teasing. We're getting right to it here. By the way, the Tyler Warren thing, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned him as a start last week here on the show. Did you talk about the 7 receptions being an NFL rookie?
Him and Harold Fadden Jr. of all people.
Which I kind of did a double take when I read that stat. I was like, oh, okay. So to your point, expect some targets. I think that's definitely a safe play. You mentioned running quarterbacks. I think of one in my head that could be a good start.
Justin Fields. Look, you know to play like Lamar and Jaden and everyone. He is just as good. He belongs in that class of a runner. 12 rushing attempts last week, 2 goal line touchdowns, nearly 30 fantasy points. Only Josh Allen had more in week 1. But again, he looked so much better as a passer than I think he is getting credit for. Completed 5 of 7 passes that were 10 or more air yards down the field. And with the Bills being banged up on defense, and with the Bills still having the MVP in Josh Allen, I think the Jets are going to have to put up points this week. Like Cam was saying, it's always competitive when these 2 teams get together, but you just saw a running quarterback run all over the Bills. I like Justin Fields a lot this week.
You know, coming into today, I was driving in thinking about some of the games, and I was like, Buffalo's going to handle this. But we had Mike Garafolo on. We talked to Cam Wolfe as well. I'm starting to think maybe the Jets have more than a chance in this game with some of these injuries.
I think they'll make it a fun game. Yeah. I'm not picking against my Bills.
I wanted to bait it because he's a Bills fan, just to see if I could get that reaction. He was going to go reverse psychology on me. No, Mike's like, dude, my guys are winning, and I get that. So
17's on the field. Yeah, they're winning.
Last time I checked, that dude is an absolute monster. James Conner, speaking of underrated guy, he actually was a name check player for you last week, and you also talked about this dude, Jay Harvey.
I want more touches to go his way.
Give him the rock, Coach Payton. Oh, it's his time to shine. Trevor Lawrence. Oh, I like this. Duval on the move. And why not? We got a couple of former number 1 overall picks, and Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, who will be going head-to-head. Time for a little Sunday statement. It is presented by PNC Bank. Jags and Bengals, I think, might be the best place to start here. Make the statement. Who makes the biggest statement in this game?
I think it needs to be Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, Trevor Lawrence, I want Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. to be as good as advertised, and I believe this could be the next coming of like a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, or A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I believe in the talent that is this wide receiver room. You watch back last week, you see Trevor Lawrence airmailing them from clean pockets. I think Lawrence has the potential to take that next step and be what we want him to be in this system, but we need to see it because what are we in year 5 now of this? And at some point, potential needs to equal results on the field, and he's being paid like a top 5 quarterback. Now help your wide receivers and put them in a position to succeed.
I don't want to steer you in a certain way, but I feel like just do me a solid. Can we just talk about the Bengals defense for like a half second?
That's
right?
exactly what I wanted to talk about.
You were going to go there. Okay, cool. I'll let you take it away.
I will say to start, I wonder if this is a big Travis Hunter game for the Jaguars defense because you have 2 really, really good receivers. You're going to need 2 really good cornerbacks on the field. Bengals even have 3 good receivers. Don't forget our guy Yoshibas.
Oh, yeah.
TikTok legend, right? And so I feel like you're going to need to have all hands on deck for that. But in terms of the Bengals defense, I thought that the Bengals defensive line, which they spent quite a bit of time and resources into shoring up this offseason, made a quiet statement against the Browns because it was the Browns, right? But then against this Jaguars team coming off of such a significantly impressive, not just run game because of what the backs were doing, but schematically impressive run game. Is this the statement game for the Bengals run defense after such a good week 1? Saying, hey, we actually did fix this, guys. Guess what? TJ Slayton in the middle, moving some bodies around.
This should put I think what we saw in week 1 should put the rest of the league on notice because we feel great about their offense, especially a year ago. We questioned this team's defense. The fact that they won in week 1 alone should be like, oh, okay, they're ready to play this year. The next matchup, Panthers and Cardinals. I'll let you do a double dip here. We go in with maybe potentially a running back in the backfield?
Yes, I love this James Conner, Trey Benson combination.
Totally.
And after what we saw from the Carolina Panthers defense last week against the aforementioned Jaguars, I don't want to see the Arizona Cardinals throw the ball one time. I want to see them run it and run it and run it and use James Conner against this Panthers front. I want Trey Benson to get in the mix. You at 9 yards per carry against the Saints in limited snaps. And James Conner has always been that heart and soul and power back for this offense. And I want to see more design runs for Kyler Murray, who had a couple of them, a couple scrambles as well. More design runs, especially in the red zone for Kyler Murray. I think that this automatically puts what already looks like a very, very tentative, shaky Panthers defense another year in a row on their heels a little bit and establishes that physicality that we know the Cardinals are capable of despite a slow start last week.
Yeah, the Panthers are a team in fantasy land. We've been picking on them with the run game forever, and I traded for James Conner on a team this week, so I really need that.
What does he know?
I mean, I saw this matchup, and I was
Can I ask you, what did you give up for him?
I traded Isaiah Pacheco and Khalil Shakir. Because we're going to talk about the Chiefs' backfield. I'm very worried about it. But in this one, Bryce Young is what I think I'm going to have my eye on today because we saw last year down the stretch, Bryce Young was playing like a different quarterback. He was running the ball really well. But then in week 1, it kind of looked like early season Bryce Young last year. And he was under pressure a lot. He was playing big from behind. So this is a Cardinals defense that didn't put up huge numbers last week against the Saints. I think it is a Cardinals defense that could be had. And if Bryce Young is what they were hoping he could be coming into the season, he will start getting McMillan the ball more, and he will just look more like he did down the stretch rather than he did in week 1.
Yeah, I get worried about this Panthers team. I mean, last year, clearly the second half, the arrow was pointing up. What we saw in week 1, I'm like, oh, man, are we just reverting
Same
back?
problems.
Yeah, it's rinse and repeat. Browns and Ravens. Who's my Sunday statement guy?
Harold Fannin Jr. I think we have a tweet that we're able to pull up. Oh, no tweet. But basically, the Browns used 12 personnel on 50% of their snaps. Harold Fannin Jr. was playing from the backfield as a tight end, as a slot receiver, as a wide receiver. He even took a wildcat snap. And no other Browns receiver other than Judy and Tillman played over 30% of the snaps. Yeah. I know it says TE next to his name. I don't think he is that. I think he is like the definition of a joker kind of player. And I think we're going to be seeing Harold Fannin Jr. use like a wide receiver 3, which works out because As a prospect, I was like, this guy is a wide receiver. He just has tight end size. So I'm very excited that the Browns used him that way in week 1 and hopeful that it'll continue moving forward.
Well, there's a reason he wears number 44 there, Mike. He is a fullback. This young man is playing, quote unquote, tight end on the roster, but they're moving him around everywhere. They're motioning him a lot. They're using him as a misdirection player. Everything that they did in week 1, and Joe Flacco, you can tell, is just having a blast with this guy who he says has really built confidence all throughout training camp and really has become a go-to person for him to get the ball to. But also they're getting him in different mathematical leverages all along that front line. When a player of that size moves in motion or comes out of the backfield or does any sort of things alignment-wise that they were doing with them last week, it changes all of the gaps for the defense. It changes all of the accountabilities and responsibilities for whatever defense they're going against. And starting like that, out of the gate, moving him like that, only sets up tape for more layers and more things that Kevin Stefanski, has been dreaming of this player for many years.
Yeah, the ground is typically shaking when a man that size is in motion, just to throw that out there. All right, Rams and Titans. Let's adjust our focus here on just a minute. And by the way, just one other thing. There is some trash talk between, I don't want to forget, Browns and Ravens, which we will get to coming up here on Game Day Preview. It is definitely worth sticking around for some of those comments. But who's my Sunday statement, Rams and Titans?
I'm going Jeffrey Simmons. And let me be very clear, because I know I was the Rams beat reporter for a while, right? But I do think the Rams are going to win this game. But I also think that Jeffrey Simmons is the statement maker. A couple of years ago, 2021, when the Rams hosted the Tennessee Titans at SoFi Stadium, Jeffrey Simmons absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage and affected the game almost immediately. 3 sacks on Matthew Stafford completely altered the game. The Rams were in a huge deficit early. Now, I don't necessarily think the script gets followed that way this time around because they certainly know what to prepare for. But there are 2 linemen on the inside, Kevin Dotson and Steve Avila. Steve Avila is probably not going to play today. Kevin Dotson is a go, but he's going to be limited with an ankle injury. That is Jeffrey Simmons' dreamland. 2 interior offensive linemen who are banged up and an undersized center. Eat. That's what he wants to do today.
Yeah. He is inactive, by the way.
Yes.
Not going to be out there. Yeah.
And Cam Ward was under pressure constantly in week 1, so that's not going to do him any favors. But who I think will do him some favors this week is Calvin Ridley. I know last week a couple of drops really hurt him, but he had Patrick Surtain, the reigning defending defensive player of the year, lined up opposite of him for over 80% of his snaps. He still had a team-high 8 targets, which shows what we saw in preseason. There's going to be a heavy reliance on Calvin Ridley from Cam Ward this week, and in a game where they could be chasing points. No Surtain there. I think a better day for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I think Cam Ward actually flashed. I saw some good moments from him.
He played a lot better than the stats show if you watched the game.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of, I saw him when he was at Washington State before he got to Miami, and even at Miami last year, watched some of those games. Sometimes under pressure, there was some costly mistakes, especially in the red zone. I thought what we saw glimpses in the preseason than what we saw in week 1. Dude can play. Understand why he was the #1 overall pick. More on Cam Ward and the Titans coming up here on Game Day Preview. Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mike made reference to Patrick Mahomes and really that backfield. He traded off one of his fantasy teams, Isaiah Pacheco. We'll dissect that and take a closer look at what the old Super Bowl champs, because they didn't win it last year, have in store later today. Oh, here we go. NFL Plus. You got the NFL in reach. You can stream live, local, and primetime games on mobile during the regular and postseason. NFL Network, including 7 exclusive live games, live game audio, and plenty more. NFL Plus Premium. Get more football with NFL Red Zone, game replays, and NFL Pro. Sign up today at plus.nfl.com/network. Terms and conditions apply. All right, there was so much excitement last week when we did this segment. What's your beef? It's presented by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. We said we got to bring it back for another one. Premise here is like, what upset you? What's your beef? You get it?
Yes.
I think we all.
I love a pun. You guys know this about me.
Yes. All right. So what's your? I'll let you look. You're the rookie on the show today. I'll let you lead off.
Cam Ward supporting cast.
Oh,
we touched on it in the previous segment. How promising a rookie quarterback Cam Ward is. To me, he was fearless. He made plays. He takes risks with his throws, but not dumb ones. He is absolutely someone that this franchise can feel like they can build around for the short and long-term future. I just need more from everyone else around him. 6 sacks, first of all. And yes, some of it, he can go on the move and all of that. But, the tackles did not look good in this game. And his receivers dropped 5 passes. And yes, Broncos defense is tough, but some wide open passes as well. And that drove me crazy to see because Cam Ward brings respectability to this franchise. They are deeply searching for a core of players to actually start to set this thing off right. You got to get him more help. I do believe they'll step up for him after watching this tape. I know I would. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to step foot on a football field again.
What's your beef?
Yeah, not only that, but the elbow is a catch, man. Throw that challenge flag next week.
Yes.
Look, I'm a fantasy guy first and foremost, and my biggest beef is the Kansas City backfield usage from week 1, because this is a team and an Andy Reid system that for years has heavily relied upon one running back and been awesome for fantasy purposes. That was not the case at all in week 1. No Chiefs running back played over half of the snaps. In fact, it was Patrick Mahomes who led them in carries, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. We saw Isaiah Pacheco coming off the field on second downs for Brashard Smith. We saw Kareem Hunt being the short yardage back and coming in passing situations. It is awful for fantasy. It didn't really work for real life either. And I think it takes the best player in your backfield in Isaiah Pacheco, and you're just taking him off the field, which is what defenses want. So I didn't get it.
Yeah, and just to double down here, you traded him away.
That usage scared me so much. I was like, he needs to get off my team.
Yeah. What's more important, real life or fantasy?
I was going to say,
fantasy
I love that you differentiated between the two. That's one thing I so appreciate about your coverage of fantasy football. You make the line very clear.
Yeah, they're two different things, but fantasy clearly matters more.
There is a level there. Can I take it to real life with my beef?
Yeah.
Okay. So make no bones about it. My adopted team is the Baltimore Ravens. My mom lives down in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson is probably my favorite player to go and watch in the league. Last 2 years, been very, very fortunate to be around this team in the preseason every single year, coming off a training camp. I walk off the football field and I say to myself, how does this team lose a football game? I think this is the best roster in the NFL. And yet an inability to close. We saw it in week number 1 against Buffalo. Like, they should have handled business. But I think about some of these larger games. Postseason 2 years ago. Zay Flowers. Sorry, Ravens fans. I got to bring that up. Last year in the postseason, Mark Andrews. Sorry, Ravens fans. That needs to be discussed. Week 1 last year, Isaiah Likely against Kansas City. Ouch, that hurt. I can think back to the middle of the season. They had a lead in the second half against the Raiders. They lost that game. I don't know what it is about this Baltimore Ravens team, but it's now more than just a trend. We're seeing these larger moments for this ball team just have these unspeakable mistakes that you just don't expect. Derrick Henry is so shorthanded. He has a huge advantage. Lost 1 fumble all of last year. Game number 1, he loses a fumble, and they lose this game. It's my beef. I still think that this roster is the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I'm now starting to question, can you really get over the hump? Can you go and win an AFC championship game when you're at home like they were 2 years ago and they lost to Kansas City? I don't know what to make of it.
A dropped 2-point conversion after 3 turnovers in the playoffs last year.
It's at some point we got to figure it out, and when they do, then we'll say, oh yeah, of course we knew that this team could get it done. But at least for me, the Baltimore Ravens, that team where I do have a little bit of a beef, and maybe they right the ship against the Cleveland Browns a little bit later today. All right, that's What's Our Beef, presented by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. Some actives and inactives, some notable injuries in week number 2. And once again, really significant for a Giants offensive line. You can see it there at the bottom with Andrew Thomas out as they match up against the Dallas Cowboys. Both of those teams thinking about how to go and get a win. All right, for a little bit more about what's happening around the league, our NFL insider, Tom Pelissero, is with us for some details. Tom, I hate starting segments with you with injuries and guys that we're not going to see out on the football field, but it's that time of the year, and I know you got details on one running back.
That's right, yeah. Really difficult situation for Commanders running back Austin Eckler, who had his MRI Saturday morning that confirmed he suffered a ruptured Achilles tendon on Thursday night against the Packers. Eckler, 30 years old. He's in a contract year. He's scheduled to be a free agent in March, now facing a long rehab process ahead. Meanwhile, a Commanders team with Super Bowl aspirations moves forward without the guy who has been RB1. This certainly now opens up opportunities for rookie Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, to be the lead back starting in Week 3. Would not be a surprise if Washington also looks out into the marketplace. Because remember, they traded Brian Robinson Jr. to San Francisco. Might try to add a veteran for depth as well. We also got a lot of storylines surrounding tonight's game, Sunday Night Football, the Vikings and the Falcons, and a quarterback on Minnesota's side who's had quite the week. J.J. McCarthy, first NFL start, first win on Monday night. Less than 72 hours later, he and his fiancée had another first, welcoming a baby boy, Rome Micah McCarthy. J.J. was in the building on Thursday morning. He was in the meetings, got a call, asked Kevin O'Connell's permission to take his fiancée to the hospital. I am told J.J. was watching tape on his iPad in the hospital room, though important to note, not during the birth. He was back at work on Friday, practiced, had a little bit of extra catch-up time. He is ready to roll tonight. Safety Harrison Smith, meanwhile, listed as questionable, not expected to play for the Vikings in this game tonight. However, things are trending positively, I'm told, for Harrison Smith potentially to be back next Sunday for a big game against the Bengals. Meanwhile, for the Falcons, who of course have former Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins as their backup quarterback behind Michael Penix Jr., they've also got a new kicker tonight. Younghoe Koo had that big miss that helped seal their Week 1 loss to the Buccaneers. Koo did not make this trip. Parker Romo elevated from the practice squad 1 year after he made his NFL debut for the Vikings. He kicks against them tonight.
Yeah. Tom, I'll tell you this, all the moms out there that were about to be mad at J.J. McCarthy, spoken like a true dad who's been through this process before. No, you're focused in on the important things. Don't worry about the game tape during the labor as well. But, Tom, appreciate the insight and the news that we have around the NFL. All right, let's take a closer look at who scores. It is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And you see some of the numbers here. Tyreek Hill, boy, he's taken some heat in some of these press conferences and these questions after the games, basically last year, heading into this season as well. Alvin Kamara, opportunity for him against the San Francisco 49ers team that will be relying on that team's defense. Daniel Jones, hello, Daniel Jones, with 7 consecutive scoring drives. We will take that if you are not a Giants fan. All right, fantasy points here. Who's going to get some more? Is it going to be like Drake May or Tua if we go back and forth on these two guys?
Drake May all day. I'm coming to theaters in Miami, made in Miami. That was my hot take on Fantasy Live this week. I think that we're going to see the Drake May breakout game today. My bold prediction: 300 yards and 3 touchdowns for the young quarterback there, but what I think is going under the radar, he threw the ball 46 times last week. They are letting him air the ball out. This is a Miami secondary that I think we are going to pick on a lot this season for fantasy purposes. And I know people are like, who scores? But I want to know, like, who's going to get a rushing touchdown? Well, Daniel Jones had 2 rushing touchdowns against this Dolphins team last week. And I think Drake May is a much better athlete and runner than he gets credit for.
You lean in on this Dolphins offense or no?
No. Drake May is also my pick here for the rushing potential that you just mentioned. And also, I trusted this Dolphins defense going into the season after last week, and also a players-only meeting that was held through this week. Not good vibes, not a good sign. And I think this defense is really vulnerable. And I think Mike Vrabel takes swallows a little pride from what happened to him last week. Yeah. A little bit of a give up. A give-up kick at the end of that game. It's, and I think he starts to let Drake May loose a little bit more. And you also need Travion Henderson to get more activated, not just in the run game, but in the pass game where he has explosive play potential. And I think that happens this week.
And in special teams, because we saw that in the preseason with that first touch. I got to tell you, if I'm a fan in South Beach right now, I'm paranoid with this team's offense because both Jordan and Mike are like, no, we're rolling with the Patriots.
Yeah.
But, okay, fair enough. This one may be a little closer than most would think. Alvin Kamara or CMC. Remember, no George Kittle. We got no Brock Purdy. Mac Jones making his first start. Fantasy points. Who do we like?
Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, is he healthy and he's playing? Yeah, then it's Christian McCaffrey. And I think no George Kittle and it being Mac Jones probably means even more pass attempts going to Christian McCaffrey's way. And that's what we saw last week. I know he didn't score a touchdown, but he still put up the huge yardage, the huge catch numbers. And no team, the Saints have allowed the most rushing touchdowns dating back to last season to running backs. So I think this is a game where he finds the end zone. Plus, I'm really concerned about Kamara, Olave, and all of the Saints. In 5 of 8 games that Spencer Rattler has played in, they have scored 13 real-life points or less. So you can't score if you're not getting any touchdown scoring opportunities. So give me Christian McCaffrey. No.
Yeah, I have 2 points. First point is 2 words. I'm not just trying to agree with you on everything. my first show.
I love it.
But 2 words for Christian McCaffrey: safety blanket. Right. This is for Mac Jones. A dream scenario. It only could get better if you had George Kittle on the field. Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield as a receiver, and then Ricky Pearsall, who has really shown that he can be trustworthy and reliable for the quarterback as well. Even with Juwan Jennings, yes, playing today, but banged up the way that he is, this passing game was already going to go through Christian McCaffrey. And so now you're still staying with your offensive install and your plan. You just have a different quarterback and one who's a little bit frisky against the opponent when he gets the chance. On the other side of it, second point is, Alvin Kamara, I always like what he can do. I always trust him. But this is also a Saints team that shows it's going to try to throw the ball come heck or high water. And it just is like one of those things that you have to respect the 49ers defense. The 49ers defense has really been impressive out of the gate in ways that I think a lot of people were expecting them to be a little less so. But Robert Saleh's done a good job coaching up that group.
As soon as Robert Saleh headed back to the Bay Area, I think to myself, I'm like, all right, we're going to see those cutaways of him just fired up on the sidelines. That I think so notable a few years ago before he got the Jets job. I was doing a guest spot in the Bay Area on radio the other day, and I was like, this San Francisco defense, they're go, hey, Spencer, go beat us.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to try to make that the case. So I'm with you here. Christian McCaffrey definitely makes some sense from that perspective. Courtland Sutton or Michael Pittman?
Which one doesn't have Patrick Surtain lining up opposite of him? I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton there because of exactly that reason. Like, I'm not buying Daniel Jones and the Colts defense. I think that was more of the Miami defense than it was Colts offense. But Courtland Sutton is an underrated touchdown scorer. 6th most receiving touchdowns, 3rd most end zone targets in the last 2 years. And this feels like a potential get-right spot for Bo Nix. And again, no Surtain on him. That's my guy.
I don't mean to agree with you a 3rd time, but we're 3 for 3. I think this is Courtland Sutton because of the Pat Surtain factor and also that secondary in general. Such a challenge, big bounce back opportunity for Bo Nix after a tough game. Do less, Bo. Take the plays in front of you. Try not to be Matthew Stafford. Be Bo Nix, right?
Here's what I learned from this segment. Quabber, producer who comes up with the combinations there. Quabber, it was one-sided. I mean, we were 3 for 3 here. So I'm just throwing that out there. I thought the CMC Kamara thing might go one way or another. But DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns this season. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly and get over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV. Download the app and use the promo code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. All right, we had that report from Stacey Dales a little bit earlier, making his triumphant return. Ben Johnson, the former OC of the Lions, back in Detroit. What are we looking for in this game, and what are we watching for in week number 2? The answer to that's coming up next. All right, his Ravens team was part of my What's Your Beef. The guy is an absolute gentleman. Like, I've gotten opportunities to interview Lamar Jackson. He's just an absolute machine. He is going to be in that MVP conversation at season's end. We see what he's got in store. We'll talk about this matchup in just a moment here against the Cleveland Browns. But we're thinking about what to watch for. One thing to watch for in some of the matchups today. Let's start with Rams and Titans. I know a little bit earlier you kind of felt like, hey, Tennessee, can we get some help around Cam Ward? Is that the theme for this game?
No, actually, no, because I do think the Rams are going to win this game. I think that I want everybody to watch Jordan Whittington, receiver, sometimes fullback, sometimes tight end. He had 2 massive all-purpose yards plays, one on special teams and one on offense called back due to penalty. It would have immediately flipped the script of that Houston Texans game, make it look a little less close than it was. Watch for him this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with what Jordan was talking on earlier. Protect Cam Ward, give him some more help. He led the NFL in sacks and unblocked pressure in week 1 and had the second most drops and QB pressures. So, yeah, I mean, all he was facing was maybe the best defense in football, but his team did not really help him around there. And we all agree, he looks the part. I think this could be a better showing for him if the Titans around him have a better show.
Love that last shot, that low angle replay, that drop down arm angle. Cam Ward, man, the dude can absolutely sling it. I know we touched on from a fantasy perspective this game, 49ers and Saints. You know, we haven't talked a ton about Mac Jones. I feel like he's got to be the thing that we're keyed in on.
I'm actually going to focus on something on the other side.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Johnson here, because him and Spencer Rattler, I think, just have a connection. And in the last 3 games together, 10, 7, and 11 targets for Johnson. Yeah. And sometimes we see this with a quarterback, right? So I want to see if this trend continues here. And if so, we might have another tight end that we could trust in fantasy.
Okay.
Gasp.
Yeah. There's not many.
Yeah, I'm looking at D. Winters. He was all over the field last week for San Francisco in this sort of rebuild on the fly Robert Saleh defense. Robert Saleh was using him as a blitzer, blitzing at a 10% higher frequency than he normally does, which you need to manufacture that pressure if you are the 49ers with such an overhauled roster on that side. I'm looking forward to seeing where on earth D. Winters is today.
Patriots and Dolphins. What do we got?
Patriots and Dolphins. Let's see. Play energy. Play energy. Okay. Play energy. From the defense, I mentioned the players-only meeting earlier this week. I cannot emphasize enough how not great it is to have a players-only meeting in week 1 of the NFL season after some circulating negative energy around that team. The Patriots want to come out swinging, and the Dolphins cannot let them outmatch them up front. Cannot let them outmatch the physicality or the play energy. That's what I'm looking for from Miami.
And to that point, I think what helps with that energy and winning up front is established Travion Henderson. He played 34% of the snaps last week, had just 5 carries, averaged over 5 yards per carry. I love the 6 targets. I love the fact that he doubled up Ramondre Stevenson pretty much in yards. But you took him in the 2nd round. We all saw how explosive he is in the preseason. Just give him the ball more. I do think this is the week we see Henderson hit a big home run, find the end zone, but I want to see it. Please let me be right and let this happen.
Please.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you brought up that players-only meeting. I think it was J.J. Watt that I saw a comment from. He's like, if you're already having players-only meetings heading into week number 2, just start thinking about that vacation in Cabo in the off-season. So I think that's probably a good way of describing
with the heat.
it. Yeah, bringing the fastballs here. I mentioned trash talk and the Browns doing some of that. I don't know if I want to wake up the Baltimore Ravens.
What are the challenges that game presents to you guys as receiving?
No challenges.
Hard to see to bring down, but they're
not hard. We'll see on Sunday.
He is a speeding freight train, and you're going to tell me no challenges with Derrick Henry? Come on now, that's just silly talk. I'm watching for Derrick Henry putting up monster numbers. You buying that?
Yeah, I do buy it, and I think that Carson Schwessinger's, the rookie inside linebacker's teammates just there put him in a really tough position because they're going to really need him to shore up the run against aforementioned King Derrick Henry. And I think, 8 tackles in his debut. He looks really, really promising. Obviously, a rookie that a lot of teams around the league were high on ahead of the draft and is starting immediately for the Browns. They're going to need every bit of him to help against the run this week.
If you want to be mind blown, go look up Derrick Henry's high school numbers. They are incredible. terrible. But with Derrick Henry being unstoppable, we saw the Bills last week actually sell out and try to do everything they could to stop the run. The Browns already play a lot of man coverage at a much higher than league average rate. It's going to be another Zay Flowers day because he is their man beater, and he is almost he's so shifty and quick that good luck sticking on him one-on-one, and Lamar knows that. Lamar identifies him and picks him out, and that's all I care about. I think Zay is going to go off today.
Can you think about being a defensive player, matching up every single week? You got Derrick Henry, who you don't want. I mean, what are you going to do? There's just business decisions. And then if you're lined up with Zay Flowers, you're like, what angle do you take? Because in a phone booth, they'll still figure out a way to wiggle out of it. Jags and Bengals. I know we were loving up Cincinnati. Get a week 1 win. Defense looked pretty good. What are you watching for?
Travis Hunter. I want to see what Travis Hunter's usage is going to be this week. How much is he going to play on defense? Last week, he played a good amount of snaps on offense, only 6 on defense. He was the team leader in targets and catches. He had a couple opportunities go over him because the quarterback overthrew him, but he showed he could play as a receiver. Now I'm hoping he gets the chance to be the real Ohtani of the NFL and play on both sides.
Yeah, and I mentioned this earlier, because the Bengals have 3 really good receivers, in a pinch, they will go to Yoshivas without hesitating if the first two are covered. This could be a big Travis Hunter game because they will need him out there. They need multiple cornerbacks on the perimeter to take care of these receivers.
Yeah, a divisional game. We have the Cowboys and the Giants, Jordan. What's that one thing that you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking at this big injury to actually inside linebacker Micah McFadden, because that means that Abdul Carter, who they could not get on the field as much as they would have liked in week 1 because the Commanders were going hurry up whenever he was off the field, so they could not substitute him into the game. I think Abdul Carter might play a little inside linebacker this week to keep him on the field and then design and scheme pressure using him along with the other 2 on the outside.
Yeah, and I was talking about it last hour. I want to see if they could get George Pickens more involved. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is going to do his thing. And on the side for the Giants, man, get Malik Neighbors the ball, right? He's only looked happy as a Giant one time, and it was when Jackson Dart was connecting with him in the preseason. Maybe we got to go to that. I don't know. But this guy is too good to not get the ball consistently.
I'm with you there. Look, you got to go and win football games. That'll put a smile on Malik Neighbors' face, and not to mention all those Giants fans. It might be hard to come by wins this season with the schedule, but an opportunity on the road against Dallas. Seahawks and Steelers. There's some good storylines in this one.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. I think there's a lot with these offenses. Can the Seahawks get a secondary receiver going? What is the running game going to look like for the Steelers? But for me, the highlight of this game is DK Metcalf. Does he get revenge? Does he score? Do they win? He wasn't as utilized last week as I thought he might be. I know Sauce Gardner was shadowing him, but still, he's DK Metcalf. He was your big acquisition. Give him some chances.
I need to know where Jalen Ramsey lines up this week. That is my number one most interesting thing, because he moved to the outside when Joey Porter Jr. left the game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is playing over 60% of his snaps on the perimeter. Is this a Jalen Ramsey moves to the outside matchup? And you can always pop him back inside if the ball starts going more to Cooper Kupp this game.
Yeah, Ramsey, by the way, with that big hit on Garrett Wilson to throw in the chances for the Jets last week. It is funny because Jets get out onto the field late, and I go, I actually think they can win this game. And clearly they didn't. But I don't know how often I was saying that about Gang Green in those types of situations. So maybe the tone has changed. I don't know if it changes today, though, as they match up against the Bills at home. What are you watching for?
Well, I want to point out this Jets right tackle who allowed no pressures to TJ Watt last week in 20 pass rush snaps. And this is rookie right tackle Armand Membu. I promise you guys, if you watch this player all game, you will have a blast. This will be the most fun thing you do all day if you just ISO cam Armand Membu.
I love that you're going in the trenches. Let's go.
Speaking of, I want to see these rookies, right? Deion Walker and JT Sanders up front for the Bills. They're going to be tested. But I think the marquee matchup in this one, Christian Benford versus Garrett Wilson. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay. This is a good matchup, man. Really looking forward to it. Bears and Lions.
For me, can the Lions look like the Lions again? I was talking about it last hour. When I watched back that tape, I was petrified as someone who is invested in this Lions offense. But then I saw the Packers do that to Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, and I was like, maybe it's just the Packers defense. So can the Lions make me feel better and look like yourself again?
I'm more worried about the Lions defense right now than I am about the Lions offense bouncing back. The Lions only got 8 pressures, no sacks, including designed pressure last week per Next Gen. That has to be corrected. That has to be ramped up, especially if you want to play the type of coverages to confuse Caleb Williams on the backside. And especially against this Bears offensive line that got penalized over and over and over again for jumping and for not being in the right place. And this could confuse them and could be a get-back game for the Lions if they can manufacture this pressure the way they need to.
You're not worried about Detroit this season, right?
I mean, I was after week 1 a little bit.
Well, I know they lost, but like, I mean,
not as a whole. I'm worried if their offense because I'm fantasy first and foremost. I'm worried if they can put up the numbers like they were in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and we'll find out. This is a good opportunity against a Chicago Bears team to get another victory or get their first victory of the season. I guess I'm like not one of those dudes that wants to panic after just the first week. And what on the college front, and I think maybe they say this on the NFL side too as well. The biggest jumps that you see week 1 to week 2.
Week 1's a liar.
Week one is a liar, and I also trust in Dan Campbell's eye for talent and getting those coordinators up to speed.
I do like where your head's at. Awesome having you, Jordan. Mike, terrific job by you. Game Center, it starts now.
Hello and welcome to NFL Game Center presented by FanDuel. I'm Patrick Claybon, and we have a great slate of games for you today. We've also got your social media reaction as well as highlights and live stats all right here available for you. I'll be back with you in just a bit, but for now, enjoy NFL Game Center presented by FanDuel.